And welcome to New York, where the United Nations General Assembly is meeting at a critical time. The UN was, of course, set up precisely to prevent conflicts like the one in Lebanon from spreading. Despite President Biden's calls for restraint in his speech this morning, few here believe that anyone who matters in the Middle East is actually listening to him. The last update from the Lebanese government this morning said that 558 people had been killed since yesterday in Israel's strikes on Hezbollah targets, 50 of them children. And the Iran-backed group has continued to attack military facilities in northern Israel. The main focus of Israel's strikes is the south of the country, where dozens of Hezbollah targets have been hit. The onslaught has driven tens of thousands of people from their homes. They're heading north towards the capital, Beirut, where Israel says it killed another senior Hezbollah commander, Ibrahim Muhammad al-Qubasi, in a strike today. Paul McNamara now reports from Beirut.
And still they come. For the second day, the roads north grind forwards as tens of thousands flee their homes in southern Lebanon. Many are heading for Beirut. Some are stopping at the soonest safe haven. It's been an exhausting journey for Batul. She gave birth just 5 days ago. She fled yesterday with all 4 of her daughters, had to turn back once because of an airstrike just in front of her car, and finally made it to this school in Berger district 20 miles south of Beirut late last night.
I was not expecting everything to happen like this. It escalated so suddenly. At first we thought living in our village would be okay because the Israelis used to hit just Hezbollah. But the last 2 or 3 days they are not striking just Hezbollah. Now they are striking everywhere.
Yesterday evening, this school became a refugee camp. 300 people now call it home, 300 of the poorest from South Lebanon.
So they have nothing?
Nothing. No clothes, no food, nothing.
And have you got enough to provide for them?
We don't have too much things to do.
So what do you need?
We need mattress, blankets, food, diapers, milk for the babies, medicaments.
Who will they come from? Is it the government that will give you those things?
Nobody will give us. Till now, nobody.
Their best hope, we were told, donations from those living locally.
People have been arriving in this town throughout the last year. Since yesterday, the exodus has been so huge that they're now at the point they simply don't know whether or not they're going to be able to cope.
This morning, though, yet more hell from above. More than 1,500 targets have been attacked since the beginning of the week, according to the Israel Defense Force. Hundreds have died. It's a death toll that's rising. We don't know how many Hezbollah members are among the dead, but the numbers do include at least 50 children and 94 women, according to the Lebanese Ministry of Health.
Anyone who has a missile hidden in their living room and a rocket in their garage will not have a home.
In his sights, Hezbollah commanders. In this apartment block in a densely populated area of South Beirut, Israel claimed to kill another senior Hezbollah member today. Missiles have been traded in both directions, though. These are Israeli interceptors shooting down Hezbollah rockets from the sky above. Damage has now been inflicted as far south into Israel as suburbs of the port city Haifa. Back in Lebanon's many newfound camps, everything about everyone's future here is uncertain.
Do you know if your house is still standing?
My house was still there when we left, he tells me, but they carried on bombing my village until 6 in the evening. I have no idea if it's still there.
We need peace. We need humanity. We need real persons who believe in God, because God is for everybody.
Do you have much faith that that peace and humanity is coming anytime soon?
I don't.
Right now, it's a view shared by many across Lebanon. There are a couple of significant things happening here. First of all, we are seeing the displacement of people used as a weapon of war. Israel inflicting further economic damage on a nation that's already financially
crippled. There is no president at the moment. There hasn't been since 2022. Parliament couldn't agree on someone. Functions of state are not functioning. Israel is exploiting how ill-equipped this nation is to deal with a crisis. Second of all, with that strike that we saw earlier on today in South Beirut, we saw Israel claim that they have killed another senior Hezbollah commander, a man called Ibrahim al-Qubasi. This was the man who was in charge of Hezbollah's rockets and missiles. Israel seems to have a list of senior commanders that they are working their way down. It's the same way they operated with Hamas commanders in Gaza. Last Friday, they killed another senior commander, the man who was in charge of cross-border operations into Israel. This isn't just deteriorating Hezbollah militarily, but symbolically and psychologically. There is still a war. There is still a fear that this war could escalate, this conflict could escalate. This evening, there are reports that the UK Ministry of Defence is accelerating plans to evacuate Brits who are here. But for the 5.5 million Lebanese people for whom this is their home, it's their reality from which there is no escape.
Paul in Beirut, thank you very much indeed. Well, earlier I spoke to Rania Abu Zaid, a Lebanese-Australian journalist and writer who's based in Beirut. And I began by asking her to describe the mood today after the intense bombardment of the last 2 days and whether there's a fear that Lebanon is becoming like Gaza.
That's the fear here, especially when you listen to the Israelis. Yesterday, the IDF spokesperson was talking about Hezbollah hiding rockets in homes, and that, you know, to many Lebanese, that sounded like they were preemptively excusing the targeting of civilian homes. And we have seen entire families who were killed in their homes in the south. So that is absolutely the fear here, that what has happened in Gaza will also happen here in Lebanon.
Under the circumstances, and given the amount of firepower that Hezbollah has at its disposal, are you surprised that they haven't done more in terms of retaliating against Israel?
Well, they have. They debuted another missile today, the Fadi-3. This was after they debuted the long-range Fadi-1 and Fadi-2 over the weekend. So they're slowly bringing out some of their heavier guns. But, Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, has said that he still has weapons that he hasn't debuted yet. So we'll have to wait and see. He has said that the battlefield will do the talking.
But once again, it feels as if Lebanon, which is an incredibly complex, and quite divided society, is once again the brutal playground of other people's interests.
Yes, I mean, to a certain degree, absolutely. That's the neighborhood that we live in over here. And it brings to mind an old Arabic saying that, my brother and I will stand against my cousin, and my cousin and I will stand against the stranger.
President Biden was here at the United Nations this morning giving quite an emotional speech and yet again calling for peace and restraint in the Middle East. But to many people, it seems as if the American president, with all his firepower parked in the region, has gone kind of missing in action on this one.
Well, I'll tell you that many Lebanese here don't think that he's missing in action. They think that he's actively aiding the Israelis. I mean, that's what they see. They hear the talk about, urging calm in Lebanon and not to escalate and not to for both sides not to explode things into some sort of all-out war. They hear the calls for the ceasefires in Gaza. And then they see the Americans continuing to arm the Israelis and to provide political and diplomatic cover. So it's not so much that they're missing in action, it's that they're batting for one side.
And is it your impression, Rania, that despite the rhetoric here at the United Nations, the Israelis are so determined to continue this, and so is Hezbollah, for that matter, your country is inexorably sliding towards something horrific that it simply can't stop?
That's the fear. It's easy to start a war, but how do you contain it? Hezbollah, for its part, has said that it opened a support front to ease the pressure of both Hamas and civilians in Gaza, and they have said that they will close the front if the war in Gaza ends. Netanyahu said over the weekend that he's added another another war goal, and that is to return the displaced from northern Israel. But it's unclear here how widening the war will help those people return. Hezbollah have said that if widening the war will actually actually cause more displaced. And what we're seeing is that Hezbollah has extended its attacks deeper into Israel. They have reached Haifa. That will presumably displace even more Israelis. So it's a very, it's unclear who's going to put the brakes on and how.
Rania Abu Zaid, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.